Hi, everyone. I hope all is well with you. So, this is the Royal Empowerment for this week. Yes, you read the description correct. God used your enemies as your stepping stones. Y'all know before, I've been talking about how God has been making your enemies your footstools. And when I say that, you, they're being used as your stepping stones. Okay. So for me, within the last year, I went through a season of where, there was somebody that I was dealing with, you know, in a specific setting. Hi, President Conyers. But there was somebody I was dealing with in a specific setting. And at one point, I thought this person was good with me. But for whatever reason, uh, there was things that started coming out of this person that revealed this person's true character about that person's uh, morals. So what it came down to, this person was very helpful to me in some parts of my journey, but at the end of the day, for whatever reason, I discovered that this person really was not for me. And this was not somebody very close to me, but this was somebody that I had learned to respect, but then at the same time, this person had no respect for me at the end of the day. So when it was time for me to go to a different place, when it was time for me to shift to a different place, then that's where things started to get shaken and things started to become more challenging. And I remember a while back, there was a prophetic word before the pandemic. There was a prophetic word about my life, and I think this person had been pivotal in their deeds to have happened. Even though you know how when we talk about Joseph, when God knows how to take what the enemy intended for your bad for your good, and that's what ended up happening. The person um, that was allowing the enemy to use them was trying to devour me, and the person kept taking shots. So when I look back and I reflect on stuff, good evening, good evening. When I look back and I reflect on things, I recognize that even though all this had hurt, this was painful, whatever, it really got me to where I need to be. It really showed me too. A lot of times your enemies will show you what's really in you and what you're able to withstand, you know. So I'm on here because I want to, first of all, encourage y'all in whatever season you're in. You might be in rest season, you might be in fight season, but I want to encourage you to do the best that you can when you see that enemy rise up, to withstand that enemy and pray to God for wisdom. Okay, wisdom in handling that person, wisdom in maintaining your sanity because if y'all if we're quite honest, sometimes we want to really do tell people exactly how we feel, and the things that we want to say is not so Christ-like. When some people get under our skin, especially those that know what buttons to push. And I remember when I would watch Judge Maybelline Ether when she was doing divorce court, and she would say, "Move the button, move the button, move the button." If that person keeps pressing your button, just move the button. And so for me, what that looks like, I move the button by keeping that person out of my space. So whenever somebody confronts you with foolishness, you don't know where it's coming from. Most likely it is of the enemy. And even now, um, going into a different place, some things might annoy me a little bit, but I try to pick and choose my battles wisely. Some people do stuff because they don't know better. Some people do stuff to get a reaction out of you. And it's up to us as people of God to be smarter than what they expect you to be. Okay? And the way that you do that, and I done said this some months back, always do what you can to be in the right. For one, when you do what you can to be in the right, that automatically make you an excellent woman. Because what happens is when you're right and you know you're right, the person that's wrong, they're going to feel offended because they don't have a leg to stand on if you're in the right, if you're doing everything that you're supposed to do, if you're following protocol, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, period. So that's why you want to make it your goal to be in the right as much as possible. Try not to drop the ball. Will it happen sometimes? Yes. And when it do happen, you pick yourself up. You have to apologize for it, say, excuse me, I didn't say for that to happen. And you put it behind you. Forgive yourself and don't let the enemy hold it over your head. You keep moving forward because that's how you grow and you become a better man or woman. So when it came down to it, I realized that even in that situation, and I know I told my sorors about it particularly or whatnot, but even in that situation, I realized because I did the right thing, I had legs to stand on. All right, and so the way I can describe how that was more like this. When this person was bullying me and talking to me any type of way, treating me any type of way, having me do things that really don't need to be done, just wasting my time just to be spiteful. When that person was doing things, I was still doing what I was supposed to be doing. So at the end of the day, when that person was wrong and that person confronted me in anger, when that person confronted me in anger about something they did, and I had to respond um, concerning how I was being treated or whatnot, what ended up happening was I had to be quiet. I had to be quiet, y'all. I had to be quiet because when a person is angry or when a person is out with a motive, sometimes people are just looking for the slightest thing to trap you, to say, well, you did this. And especially if the person has a skill of manipulating. Okay. Manipulators are good at blowing things out of proportion and making things to be out more than what they are. And they try to manipulate situations to be what they're not or to be in their favor, and it's not fair. So if you're dealing with a person that's like a master manipulator, it's best that you give them less words. It's best that you don't give them anything for them to manipulate. If they do, they're going to be manipulating in vain. Okay, so I was dealing with that type of thing at one point. So what I learned from that experience was when I've been quiet, I was able to absorb, go back, reflect, and think. And the timing of how things happen, it left me in the better position. It left me at an advantage because the person thought that they was going to talk to me any type of way. I sit there and take it, and we go back to normal. Okay, but because God been working on me, and I started to become a little more bolder. It doesn't mean I'm trying to go around have everything my way or whatever, but I knew certain things were not right, and I had to speak up for myself. So what ended up happening when this person thought, oh, they're gonna go and have a nice rest of the summer or whatever like that, oh, that person got something from me. That person got a message where I had to address that person, let them know what you did was not good. What you did was not cool. What you did was disrespectful. So at the end of the day, I was put in a position when that person felt that they got away with whatever they did and said what they said. God had really put it on my heart and gave me peace when I did that, because a lot of times we don't want to do something because we're afraid to agitate the other person. We're afraid the person gonna blow up. We're scared of what they're gonna do. But we always gotta look at everybody to be just flesh and blood. We can't be so scared to say how we feel to certain people until you just start letting them get away with it. And so that was where my growth was going, because this was the same person some time ago or years ago would do stuff to me, and I would just accept it because I felt like I had no power, I had no say so, I had to do it. But when I started making sure that I was in the right, that was when I was able to stand up for myself and say, hey, that was not right. Hey, you know better. And I was actually able to let that person know, you know better out of all people, you know better. And I was able to tell that person, the same person that did stuff to me, I was able to tell that person that. So when we look at this model in the Bible, those of y'all who know I talk about David, King David, before he became king, when Saul was still king, and even though Saul was anointed, Saul still had an infraction concerning God. Okay, he still violated God, and God was not pleased with Saul. And so a lot of times when God ain't pleased with people, or people not living the way that they're supposed to be, they're gonna start acting like Saul. They're gonna start trying to take shots at you. They're gonna start trying to do things to you. And so at the end of the day, what it came down to, David had to um, behave himself wisely. And that's why I say you got to make sure you're in the right. Behave yourself wisely. Okay, be where you're supposed to be. Do what you're supposed to do. Do what is expected of you in whatever relationship that you have, so that no one can fault find you. And if they are, they're just going to be making things up. And that's how. And you rather somebody try to make stuff up than to actually prove, you to prove them right. So again, you want to take that David mindset and just be like, I'm gonna behave myself wisely, okay? I'm gonna behave myself wisely around this Saul. So that's what I had to do. I had to keep my mouth shut, didn't say much until you know until I had to release all that stuff that was on me. Okay, so I say this because it's possible, and a lot of times, like I said, we want to tell people off. We want to throw in the towel. And I know with me, it was times I wanted to give up so bad. I really did want to give up so bad. It was in the last 6 months when it came to my sorors. I was just apologizing for not feeling that I was at my best with them, because I was, and then it was also spiritual warfare too. Sometimes, and matter of fact, while we on it, while I got a little bit of time, because I'm dealing with mental health um, advocacy. And even now, when I get off this video, I'm prepared to go inside to this mental health forum session. So when I talk about mental health, some people might not talk about it like this, but some things are not always clinical. Some things are not always physical, like what you eat. Sometimes it's spiritual. And I know with me, a lot of times in my spiritual journey, my warfare with the mind had been spiritual. The enemy will wage war on your mind. And when that happens, that's how you really know most likely you are a David. Okay. Okay, so Davids, we walk a certain way. We have a certain thing about ourselves, and we got certain type of spiritual understanding. That don't mean that we're better than anybody. But that does mean we are a different brand of people. Okay, and real quick to those who don't know what I'm talking about when I speak of David, David was more like the one that looked, in my opinion, when I read the Bible, David was the last person presented to the prophet. Okay, and David is the youngest of Jesse's child. And this is where I'm going when I talk about these Davids. Davids are the type of people that people sleep on. These are the type of people that people overlook, people step over, people think they ain't qualified. Okay, that's what a David is. All right, when I say a David, okay, but Davids are actually the heroes in their environment. They're the ones that flip the script. They're the ones that save the day. Okay, so that's what a David is. And so with David, David also have a lot of compassion. Have a lot of compassion. Um, David's people that have it going on. There's other people of God that have it going on, but you gotta find out what Bible person mimics you. What Bible person mimics your life. I want to one day, hopefully, if I can get some inspiration from God to figure out what other people that I can share with y'all, because I know I'm a David. And it's up to y'all to figure out if y'all are David. And again, David, so excuse me, y'all. Davids are people that are normally, at first, they're looked at as last. And then it takes some time for people to realize, oh, that's the real king. Oh, that's the person that's supposed to be in a certain place. So I didn't know that was the king, or that was the one God had anointed all along. So David is sort of like the wild card in the Bible. You don't know who that person is until that time comes for them to flourish. Okay, so that's why I also preach to people: get in your purpose, get in your purpose. Getting your purpose, because when you're in your purpose, you're happy, and usually too, that happiness sort of sustains you because of God's grace, and to put you where you love to be and where you want to be and where you flourish. That also can sustain you during a rocky time in your spiritual journey. So again, back to the basis of this message. Again, God is able to use your enemies to get you to where you need to go. And that's why they're your footstools. Okay? God knows how to make your enemies behave and make your enemies walk the green mile and serve you. Okay? I said it correctly. Because the Bible also says that the enemies will bow to the good. The evil shall bow before the good. You'll find that in Proverbs. Okay? So when it comes, and also too, your enemies will be at peace with you. Okay, your enemy, God can make your enemies be at peace with you. Okay, when a man ways please God, so only thing you got to do is just walk upright, do everything that you can do to live right. Okay, and I want to say, anybody and everybody, please don't be the type of person that throw the rock and hide your hand. Okay, those are the type of people that always cry victim. Those are the ones that always get stuff started and then wonder why bad things happen to them. Don't be like that. Let us be wiser than that. Let us be smarter than that. Let us be honest, and you got to be honest with yourself. Make sure you don't throw the rock and hide your hand. And if you think you might hurt somebody, you better ask God to help you. And I do that too. Okay. And one of the ways I do that too is with my students sometimes. You know, I have to think, and I'm like, I hope, I haven't hurt any of my students or anything that I said. I don't aim to do that. I don't aim to do it, and sometimes you got to be tough, but sometimes you hope that you're not too tough. You hope that whatever you give your students is for that right student, because it's certain students you can talk to, you can be tough with, and they're like, okay, and you got some, they're sort of fragile, and you got to be careful. And then me, in my opinion, if they're the type of student that like to play victim, I won't care because I want to teach them a lesson, okay? And that's just me. If they the type like to throw the rock and hide their hand and easy get their feelings hurt and they done the dirt, yeah, I'm gonna make them feel how I feel, okay? And that's just my thought, my opinion, okay? And so at the end of the day, y'all, you can be victorious. You can have God's favor on your side as long as you dealing upright. And nobody can and then I also too learn not to be impressed with people. All right, and that's a skill that might take some people time. It took me some time to get to a point where I was like, I'm not impressed with people no more. I don't care who they think they are, what their status is, what their title is. I'm not impressed with anybody that mistreat other people, um, that put people down to look good. And to me, that's some elementary type stuff. So somebody, if they're in my age group doing some mess like that, or a person, period, I'm not impressed by that person. I'm not in awe of that person. If anything, you just feel for that person because something is wrong when you got to do that to people. So don't be impressed with people, and this also helps you too. Because you got some people, when you impress with them and you make a mistake in front of certain folks, then you start to feel bad and you start to feel embarrassed. And really, you got to look at everybody according to God's Bible. If you look at everybody according to God's standard, all have sinned and fall short of God's glory. All of us were born into sin. Everybody makes a mistake. Some learn quicker than others. Some may not ever come to the light of learning. But once you realize what your mistake is, do the best that you can to keep from repeating. And don't let anybody make you live in the past try to make you look down on yourself and less than, as if you're not good enough. Okay, so I'm not gonna waste up too much more of your time. Be good to yourselves, live right before God, and I will catch y'all in the next broadcast. God bless you.